TikTok has just officially sued the Biden administration in an attempt to stop the government from banning the app here in the United States. This morning, TikTok filed this 77-page lawsuit in the Washington, D.C. Federal Appeals Court, saying the bill passed by Congress and signed by the president last month is a flagrant violation of the First Amendment, and Congress has absolutely overstepped its authority by singling out one company and not keeping the laws consistent. The suit says the law is so obviously unconstitutional, in fact, that even the act's sponsors recognize that reality and therefore have tried mightily to depict the law not as a ban at all, but merely a regulation of TikTok's ownership. TikTok says that's a lie. The law is meant to be a ban, and it is a ban. The company is asking the D.C. Federal Appeals Court to block the law from taking effect and stop the Attorney General from enforcing it. Now, I read this whole lawsuit. Here's what you need to know. This is a long video, but if you care about what happens to TikTok, you should probably know these arguments. The document tells a story of how for years TikTok has been working with the U.S. government to address all the national security and data privacy concerns, only to have Congress pull the rug out from underneath them and pass the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act just a few weeks ago. That law says ByteDance, the Chinese-based parent company of TikTok, must divest or sell off its interest in TikTok to a company the U.S. government says is not controlled by a foreign adversary. The law says if ByteDance doesn't divest in the next 9 months, TikTok will be banned. The lawsuit argues several things. Primarily, the company is framing this as a First Amendment violation, not only for the 170 million American users, but also a violation of the First Amendment rights of the company. The suit also discusses Fifth Amendment and improper procedure violations. But for purposes of this video, I'm going to focus only on the First Amendment part of it. The suit says the Supreme Court has consistently ruled that government actions which deny use of a forum in advance of actual expression or forbid the use of public places for people to say what they want to say are the most serious and the least tolerable infringement on First Amendment rights. TikTok says that's exactly what the government has done here. The suit goes on to say that there are laws on the books that balance First Amendment rights with national security protections. But those statutory protections were evidently seen as an impediment to Congress's goal of banning TikTok, so the act dispensed with them. TikTok makes a big deal in the lawsuit about the so-called national security threat the government says the platform poses. Now, I have reported for years that the U.S. government and lawmakers have said that China can manipulate TikTok's algorithm and therefore manipulate the thoughts and actions of American users. The government has also alleged that China can easily track and access U.S. user data through the platform. But the fact is the government has never given any specific evidence of that. All they've ever said is, it's classified. And TikTok calls them out in the lawsuit for it, saying Congress itself has offered nothing to suggest that the TikTok platform poses the types of risk to data security or the spread of foreign propaganda that could conceivably justify the act. TikTok goes on to say, at most, Congress is speculating on the threat. But speculation is not evidence, as the First Amendment requires. Speculative risk of harm is simply not enough when First Amendment values are at stake. The lawsuit goes on to say even if the U.S. government could show that TikTok pushes misinformation, disinformation, and propaganda on the American public, all those things are still protected under the First Amendment. In fact, there's a 1965 Supreme Court case called Lamont versus Postmaster General that prohibits the government from stifling what the government considers foreign propaganda. As for the protection of U.S. user data, the lawsuit calls out Google, Snap, and Meta, saying the law Congress just passed that would ban TikTok ignores the reality that much of the data collected by TikTok is no different in kind from the data routinely collected by other applications and sources in today's online world, and ignores that foreign countries, including China, can obtain such information on Americans in other ways, such as through open source research and hacking operations. TikTok's lawsuit says not only does this law force TikTok to be held to a different standard, but for 4 years, TikTok has gone above and beyond working with the U.S. government to protect U.S. user data, including investing $2 billion in a state-of-the-art Project Texas operation. The lawsuit also revealed that TikTok even agreed to a deal that gave the U.S. government a shutdown option of the platform if it was ever discovered that TikTok wasn't protecting U.S. user data like it promised. But None of that was good enough. The lawsuit goes on to talk about how Congress overstepped its authority by cooking up this divestment scheme in the law, saying that it is simply not possible, not commercially, not technologically, not legally, and certainly not on the 270-day timeline required by the Act. The lawsuit says even if the scheme was feasible, the law would still be an extraordinary and unconstitutional assertion of power. If upheld, it would allow the government to decide that a company may no longer own and publish the innovative and unique speech platform it created. The suit goes on to say if Congress could do this to TikTok, they can do this to any media company by simply claiming a national security concern and ordering a publisher of any individual newspaper or website to sell to avoid being shut down. The lawsuit says Congress has never before crafted a two-tiered speech regime with one set of rules for one named platform and another set of rules for everyone else. Now we wait and see how the Department of Justice will respond. So if you want to read this entire lawsuit for yourself, I will email it out to you tonight in my Newsgirl News Roundup email, so make sure you sign yourself up.